is that, in fairness to the court system, the court tends to pull out all the stops, and these cases tend to be heard very quickly. So I don't think you can really lay it at the door of the court system. Once the case comes to the attention of the court and the nature of the issues are identified, generally speaking, everything is done very, very quickly. That's the first thing. In relation to women in the asylum system, for example, in the DV Ireland case, the state cite a Ukrainian asylum seeker who was able to get legal representation, access a court, go to a judge over the weekend and have a full hearing by the Monday and have a decision on Monday evening. So there are some instances where asylum seekers are able to access services quickly. Then you come to the Y case, where if you look at the Y case only came to the attention of the court because the HSE made an application in relation to a woman who was at that time detained in mental hospital, who was pregnant, and they wanted to be able to sedate and hydrate her because she was going to effectively be delivered of her child in circumstances where she had been seeking an abortion for the previous, I think at that stage we're talking about August or September, and she had been seeking an abortion since the April. And it just seemed to fall between all the cracks, and she wasn't able to travel because she wasn't able to get a document, she wasn't able to fund it, and she became extremely depressed and suicidal. And eventually, I gather, if you look at the report from the HSE about the timeline in relation to the Y case, it would appear that she subsequently was delivered of the child by caesarean in hospital, because that was the only way of vindicating her right to life at that point in time, because she was suicidal and was refusing food and fluid. But she didn't come before the court on a right to travel. She didn't come before the court on I'm suicidal, my rights need to be vindicated in a particular way. She came before the court because the HSE wanted to hydrate her because she wasn't eating or drinking. So, can I just ask specifically on the delay issue? I know you've said the courts deal with these things as expeditiously as possible, but are you aware of delays before they get to court? Yes, because obviously you've got a woman who may be quite vulnerable, who doesn't know what to do and who to approach, and hasn't got legal representation and can't fund legal representation and doesn't know who to talk to about a circumstance. So it usually depends on the individual person and whether or not they can access advice which outlines their rights to them. And bear in mind that this is this is not an area of practice that's particularly common. So the number of lawyers who would have the specialist kind of knowledge would be quite small, I imagine. So I think there's all those kind of difficulties that stand in the way. This goes for children as well as people who simply can't move because they're in the asylum system in some way, or they're in the immigration system because they have the right to travel. Would their parents come to court, or how would they be represented? These are usually children who come to court are in care. Because the parents then, usually parents will make a decision for their minor and will travel with their minor out of the jurisdiction to avail of services, or else will now invoke the provisions of the Act to see whether they qualify for an abortion in this jurisdiction. It's really children who are in care and adults who are vulnerable because either they don't have capacity to make decisions or they simply don't have the freedom to move out of the jurisdiction.
Thank you, Deputy.